What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Glad to be here with you, guys and gals. See, the chat is lit up already on this glorious June the 8th. As we're getting ready for another work week, we've got Packers mandatory minicamp coming up this week. That's going to be exciting, getting all kinds of information there. And then, of course, when minicamp wraps up, it's going to be kind of a dead period in terms of new news, I guess you could say, until training camp. Now, maybe we'll get some answers on Jair. Maybe we'll get some answers on Elton Jenkins. Obviously, Romeo Dobbs has been there for pretty much the entirety of the offseason program, sounds like, so we're good there. We'll get you guys as much information as we can during that dead time, but we'll take time to dive back into the tape, recap last year. It's a good opportunity during that dead period while other people are just kind of taking the rest of the summer and, whatever, chilling before football season gets cranked up. What we like to do is go back and look in quarters, essentially, like the first 4 games of the season, the second 4 games of the season, the third quarter, then the fourth quarter. And of course, there's an extra game now with the expanded schedule. So we kind of look at it that way and go, okay, here, what exactly happened last year? Let's just get a quick recap, a quick refresher of everything that unfolded the previous season. And then boom, it's time to jump right into training camp. So it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. If you guys would hit that like button on the way in, feel free to sub to the channel. If you're new here, I want to tell you that the best way to support what we do here at Packers Total Access is join our Patreon community over at patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access, or you can scan the QR code here in the upper right. $3 tier gets you access to everything on the site. We're actually going to be giving away an autographed Kingsley Enagbare card tonight to one of the lucky $3 tier or higher members. We got the wheel ready to roll, and we're going to do that as we wrap up the show. We're flying solo as the guys are busy. Listen, it's everybody. Here's the rule of thumb, and me and Tim have talked about this numerous times. When you start to hit this dead period before we get into training camp, get the honey-do list done. Get it done. Now's the time to build up as much credit as humanly possible with the lady friend, okay? Whether it's a wife, a significant other, whatever it may be. Get that stuff in right now, so as soon as training camp starts, you've already got so much credit established with your significant other that you ain't got to worry about getting I don't want to say hounded. That sounds pretty bad, don't it? Just get your work done now, fellas. Let's just put it that way. Take her on vacation. Take her on a cruise. Take her out to a couple of dinners. We're going to have, roughly a month, a little over a month of dead time. That's enough for about 4 nice dinners, and then you're all set for football season. That's the way I look at it. So, okay, now I look at the chat, and Chris is already off the rails here. Anyway, let's dive into some content here. A couple things I wanted to hit. This is over in our Patreon group. You guys, like I said, have access to all this. I just went through and caught a few key analytics that I thought were kind of important. Stuff that just kind of grabbed my attention. Some of this we've already talked about a little bit, but just want to dive into it a little bit more and get everybody's take in the chat as well. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to @Football Insights. So it's at FBALL_INSIGHTS at FBall_insights over on X. Phenomenal follow. They're always posting just kind of these advanced metrics, these analytics that take you a little bit outside of the box, if you will, in terms of how you're following the NFL. Okay, so he posted this on May 30th, receiving EPA per game leaders in 2024. So again, we've talked about what EPA is, expected points added. And it's a good measuring stick of removing a lot of the noise and getting a good gauge on how these players actually performed, right? Well, here are the top receivers in the league in terms of EPA per game, all right? Number 1 is Amon-Ra St. Brown. 2 is T. Higgins. 3 is Jamar Chase. Also tied for 3rd is George Kittle, so there's your first tight end on the list. Then you've got A.J. Brown. That's your top 5, okay? And Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of ran away with it last year, okay? He had a 5.94 EPA per game. Then it goes 4.7, 4.5, 4.5, 4.3, 4.3, so on and so forth. You got Lab McConkey, 6. What a great pick that was, right, for the Chargers. Terry McLaurin, scary Terry McLaurin out there in Washington. You got Devonta Smith of the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. Nico Collins from the Houston Texans. Adam Thielen in the 10 spot, Puka Nacua in the 11 spot, Jonnu Smith, another tight end. I think he's with the Dolphins, I believe now. He comes in the 12 spot. Justin Jefferson lands at 13. Mike Evans, 14. Brian Thomas, 15. Trey McBride, 16. 17 is Malik Neighbors. 18, Khalil Shakir, if I'm saying that correctly. Then you've got 19, Jawan Jennings. 20, Jackson Smith and Jigba. 21, Darnell Mooney. 21, Rashad Bateman. 23, Jalen Waddle. 24, Jalen Coker. 24 also is Mark Andrews, tied in from the Baltimore Ravens. Zay Flowers is 26. Alec Pierce, remember him a few draft years ago. The Packers were very interested in him. I think they might have brung him in for a top 30 visit. He ended up going to Indianapolis. He's in the 27 spot. Alan Lazard. We had a little conversation about Alan Lazard the other night on the show, right? And it's just like this foregone conclusion that Alan Lazard's just a bad receiver. And listen, has he played bad? Yeah. Everybody's had good games. Everybody's had bad games. But in terms of EPA per game, Alan Lazard, 2.49, not bad at all, right? He's number 28 in the league. And then our very own Jaden Reed in the 29 spot before George Pickens rounds out the top 30 at 2.42. Jaden Reed lands at 2.48. So he played in 18 games. He ran 411 routes. When you look at that, he had a significant amount of routes compared to some of these other guys, like a Jalen Coker, only 278. He had more than Mark Andrews, obviously playing tight end. With Jaden Reed's 411 routes, he's in the bottom third in terms of routes, but nonetheless qualified for this little exercise here. So again, Jaden Reed, 2.48. He's the top Green Bay. We talked about he was the highest graded Green Bay Packer wide receiver last year, right? Well, I don't like PFF. Okay, got it. He had one of the highest passer rating when targeted. It's definitely the highest on the Packers roster. He was actually top 10, I think, in passer rating when targeted. Well, I don't like that metric. Okay, got it. You go on down the line. Now we're up to the point where it's EPA per game leaders. And he is, if you were to look at this and say, okay, there's 32 teams, and you guys know how I feel about this. If you rank in the top 32 at any position across the league, that would suggest that you are capable, you are qualified to be a number one at your respective position for that specific metric, right? So EPA per game is right there for Jaden Reed. And again, anytime I come across something, I'm looking for something to tell me that Jaden Reed isn't a good receiver. And it's not that I don't want him to be considered a good receiver. You guys know I'm the president of the fan club, but I've been pretty vocal. Like, I've caught some hell over talking bad about Luke Musgrave, right? When I say talking bad, just pointing out that, hey, he's been banged up and he's underperformed when he's been on the field, right? I've said, about Dontavion Wicks, I always point back to the rookie year, but last year, there's no two ways about it, man. It was a bad year, Christian Watson a couple years ago struggled quite a bit, right? So I'm not afraid to talk negative on a player on the Packers roster if it's warranted. But when people talk about Jaden Reed as if he's not a good receiver, it's just simply not true. So just another metric here, right? That just proves that Jaden Reed is going to be a solid player for the Green Bay Packers for a long time to come. I want to see them lock him up under contract, especially if he does this again this year. Now, if he takes a huge step back like Dontavion Wicks did last year, I'd be a little nervous. I'd be a little more like, man, maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit, right? But I don't expect that. I don't expect it at all, man. I expect him to continue to get better. I don't know if you guys heard what Josh Jacobs said in the offseason, where he was like, we need to go out and get a receiver. And Jaden Reed sent a tweet out kind of like, okay, all right. And then Josh Jacobs was interviewed here recently during OTAs and asked if he had spoken to Jaden Reed about that comment. And he said, yeah, we've spoken about it, right? And Jaden Reed basically said, it's just motivation for me. That's how you respond to something like that. And listen, kudos to Josh Jacobs for rattling people's cages a little bit. He didn't do it in a way to go, these guys need to step up, they suck. Just a little subtle leadership move in saying, we need to get us a receiver in there. We got to get better at receiver. He didn't say Jaden Reed needs to play better. He didn't say Romeo Doubs needs to play better. He didn't say Dontavion Wicks needs to stop dropping the ball. No, he just said we need to get a better receiver in here. We need to get more receiving targets in here. And I think that was perfect. Because Jaden Reed, that's the other thing Josh Jacobs went on to say. He said, I can see how these guys are responding. They're chirping in camp. They're chirping in minicamp, these receivers are, because they're out to prove a point. Romeo Doubs in a contract year, right? He's going to be playing for his NFL life, so to speak. Christian Watson's going to be coming back, whether it's late October, early November. Hopefully it's whenever he's healthy. I don't care if it's December as long as he's fully healthy. That's all I care about. But when he comes back, he's going to have a short window to try to impress the Packers to give him a contract extension, whether it's one of these, 1 or 2 year prove it deals just to make sure, hey, let's just make sure the knee's okay type thing. Or if they want to extend him and they feel good about it, kind of like they did with Rashawn Gary, after he tore the ACL, he proved he was healthy and they were willing to give him a deal. Now, obviously, edge rusher a little bit different than wide receiver, but nonetheless, it's definitely something. He's kind of auditioning for his job. And then you get the 2 rookies, of course. Matthew Golden wants to prove his worth. He wants to show that he can be that outside receiver, that Z. And then, of course, you've got Savion Williams, who everybody's kind of dubbed the gadget guy. I guarantee you he wants to come in and prove he can play receiver. So what you've got is this perfect recipe for competition is really what it comes down to. And I'm sure Coach Lynn can attest to this. There's nothing better in a position group room than a room full of guys that no one has arrived and everyone is competing for their spot, not just on the roster, but in this offense. Because, there's levels to all of this stuff, right? Like Jaden Reed is your slot receiver. I don't think anybody would argue about that. Now, can he play Z? I believe he can play Z. That's just me personally based off the college tape and some of the deep routes that he has ran since he came into the league. He's proven he can do that. Now, is he going to sit there and go, that's right, I'm the best receiver on this team? Absolutely not. Because Matthew Golden could come in. What if Matthew Golden came in and put up a good amount of, let's say similar numbers to Jaden Reed did his first couple of years in the league. Let's say that Matthew Golden has 800 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns, right? Just for easy math. And Dontavion Wicks returns to his rookie form. And let's say he finishes with 7, 8, maybe 900 yards receiving, and he proves he could play in the slot, which they were trying to work him in and out of that boundary X and the slot a little bit. What if those 2 guys step up and Jaden Reed and again, I'm not saying Jaden Reed's going to do this. I think he's quite the opposite of player that would just sit back and get comfortable. Where Jaden Reed takes a step back and kind of rests on his laurels, he's going to be looking up next year going, they're probably not going to give me an extension because Tay Wicks just took my money. And Matthew Golden's the real deal. That's the stuff that matters, man. That's everything that matters in a position group. And it's what pissed me off about the center position the last couple of years, because we could all see center was underperforming in Josh Myers. And it's like there was never a competition. So that's something that I look forward to this year. I think it's going to be great. Solder in the chat, good to see you, buddy. He says Reed should play Z. I'm okay with Matthew Golden, Dontavion Wicks, and Jaden Reed kind of rotating. And when I say rotate, I don't mean coming in and out of the game. I mean, 1 second, let's say Jaden Reed will line up in the Z, but the pre-snap motion ends him in the slot where he's essentially playing F, and he'll run the slot route, right? Maybe he starts in the slot and does that cheat motion outside the Z. We've seen that last year as well. Now, if you get Matthew Golden acclimated to Matt LaFleur's system to where you can use him in a similar manner, man, sky's the limit, right? And then I feel like Dontavion Wicks is more cut for what Romeo Doubs does at boundary X. Romeo Doubs did it way better than Dontavion Wicks last year, in my opinion, mainly because he caught the football. But if he could get those drops under control and he could take that spot from Rome by the end of the year, you don't have to pay Romeo. Romeo walks in free agency. Now you've got Dontavion Wicks in the boundary X, and you've got Matthew Golden and Jaden Reed, who can be a little more versatile and mix and match there at the Z and the slot. So Matthew Golden's going to play a huge role in this team this year. I believe that. Now, will he exceed expectations or will he fall short, right? That's the question. But everything we've heard out of camp is Matt LaFleur talking about how he's an extremely sharp receiver. Like he's a smart guy. He's got the right attitude. You hear Jordan Love say he's very polished. He used that word. You heard Romeo Doubs talking about he's already a dog, right? So Matthew Golden should hit the ground running, man. But yeah, I wouldn't have any problem with him playing Z Solder. I think he does that pretty well. He being Jaden Reed. But the other thing too is, let's say you put read in the Z, and you go, okay, predominantly you're playing Z, okay? And let's say you put Matthew Golden at X, and then you're rotating guys in and out of the slot. Well, when Jaden Reed goes down, who's your Z now, right? So if you're working them both into the Z, the moving Z, the F, the slot, whatever you want to call it, if you're working both of them, both Matthew Golden and Jaden Reed in and out of that all year long, if and when, it's going to happen, guys. You know this happens every year. If and when someone gets hurt and misses 2 or 3 games, the other guy is going to be what we call cross-trained, right, at those positions. And that is something the Packers do really well, especially on offensive line. They're big on cross-training offensive linemen. So it's going to be fun to see how that unfolds. So, again, Jaden Reed, I feel like he's very underappreciated. 2.48 EPA per game, finishing 29th in the entire league last year. That was Packers' best on their roster. All right, let's move on to a little Matt LaFleur talk here. There's another analytic metric, whatever you want to call it. Football Insights put out. Interesting seeing Matt LaFleur pull back on 4th downs after being one of the more aggressive head coaches in recent years. And what it's shown here, guys, is how many times, how often the Packers go for it when they should on 4th down. Okay. And you'll see here by the year, huge drop off where we drop down around the 30 mark. Now, I think, what was it we came up with the other day? We did an exercise on this on the show. Just 28 or 29 times we went for it on 4th down. And you guys remember, I didn't have a problem with when he chose to do it, which explains why going into that exercise, I was expecting to go, man, we were reckless on 4th down last year. Because the emotion of watching the game live and going into the post-game shows that we do right here on the channel immediately following the games and all those things, it's the memory from last year was just overly emotional that we were just too aggressive. And in reality, you step back just like we did last year. We looked at the 4th down rate in which we went for it on 4th down. It was through the roof, and that's probably why I still had that sour taste in my mouth. And we look at the numbers this year, and we actually were fairly conservative on 4th down. You guys know how I feel about that. I'd rather play the field position game, pick up that invisible yardage rather than turn the ball over, give a team a short field. You know, especially with the way your defense is playing now and the way you were forcing turnovers last year. That's probably another reason why Matt LaFleur felt that way. You know, we were not creating we were like 2nd or 3rd worst in interceptions or takeaways the year before, I believe, under Barry. And then this year we jumped to whatever it was, 2nd or 3rd best in takeaways under Jeff Hafley. I guarantee you a quarter of the way through the season, Matt LaFleur seeing that turnover differential and going, okay, all right, we're taking the ball away. Let's not be as aggressive as we have here in the past. So I just thought that little metric there on Matt LaFleur was interesting because, again, when we look at it the other day, we just give you the total number. We talked about, we specifically showed you guys the plays that we went for it when we were losing, right? And we were way more effective, way more, what am I trying to say, successful at converting on 4th down when we had a lead as opposed to trailing. It seemed like we were a lot worse there. So, trying to see here in the chat real quick and see what everybody's talking about. Coach Lynn in the chat said, if I were Golden, I would ask the wide receiver coach for all the practice film of Devontae Adams' release package. You know, that's the thing too, Coach. And I know these are just workout videos and stuff, but we're not talking about AFAM's Tybo videos. We're talking about the receivers working out together in Florida, I believe it was. If you go back and watch those, and again, I know nobody's covering them and it's all designed to be glamorous and everything, but watch Jaden Reed's feet. He has some amazing footwork. Now it's just, does he truly understand the nuance of creating separations? You know, like Coach Lynn said with the release package, right? What he means by that is getting separation off the line of scrimmage. If they're playing bump and run, being able to work inside out or outside in to create that free release, right? Or it could be that they're playing a little soft, they're playing off, and that's a part of the release as well, right? Your first couple steps to set them up so you can make your move, even if it's on a go, just a subtle jab outside to get inside leverage to run a fade and bend it back out. Or if you're looking to run a climb route, you know, just a subtle jab step in, work out, and then make your break to run that climb route, that crosser, all those things. That's really what's missing from Jaden Reed. Now, the drops were a bit of an issue last year. You guys know how I feel watching the tape. It's not near as bad as some people were making it out to be. Dontavion Wicks, different story. Really, really bad drops from Tay Wicks last year. But if you can get Jaden Reed's release package and his route running, just it ain't got to take a huge step, but just a slight improvement. Imagine how good that guy's going to be, because he can attack the football. He's pretty darn good with contested catches. Jaden Reed, if you were to say, okay, what is it he does really well? It's definitely yak, and along with that yak, it's Matt LaFleur helping them create separation, right? I mean, he's scheming guys open pretty darn good as well. So let's see here. 2-0 for this says, can you imagine if we use Tucker Kraft on jet sweeps that Matt loves so much? It'd be so hard to stop. We did that. You guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I think we did that with Musgrave when he was healthy as well. Now, Musgrave, I don't know why it feels like Musgrave is faster than Tucker Kraft, but I could be completely wrong there. Tucker Kraft had an amazing RAS. Somebody look that up. Let me know who had the faster 40 time. Was it Tucker Kraft or Luke Musgrave? Not that it matters. You're probably splitting hairs to that point, but I'd like to see who is the quicker of the two, because I kind of felt like it was Musgrave coming out in the draft, but it may have actually been Tucker Kraft. So let's see. 2-0 for this is Kraft, not Musgrave in all caps. Yeah, for me with Tucker Kraft, his hands are so damn good though, man. To me, it doesn't take a whole lot of talent to take a handoff. So I would rather take the player that's less effective with yak, because the big part of yak is being fearless and catching the ball and turning upfield. To me, Luke Musgrave has a little bit of timidness there. So I would much rather have Tucker Kraft in the route because of his hands. I mean, he didn't have a single drop his rookie year, and I think last year he only had 1 or 2 drops if I remember correctly. So that's one of those things that I think I would rather have. I'd rather have Musgrave on the jet sweeps and Tucker Kraft in the route. But I understand what you mean there too. 2-0 for this. A full head of steam for Tucker Kraft running people over. That's a lot of fun to think about as well. Thank you for looking that up, Bates. Bates said Tucker Kraft ran a 4.69 40. Luke Musgrave ran a 4.61. So I was right there. That's what I was thinking, that Musgrave was a little bit quicker. But again, that's 40 time, right? That's running a straight line from a 3-point stance in your underwear. Football speed's a whole different ballgame. And I think we would all agree, Luke Musgrave, when he got on the field, he was a little bit off balance. He didn't play with very good body control. Tucker Kraft's quite the opposite. You see that diving catch in the end zone and other plays that he made, obviously hurdling people and breaking the first tackle and all that. So, yeah, it's going to be cool to see, like Prince says here, Tucker Kraft and Musgrave will be nice to have healthy at the same time. And it's the sky's the limit there. And, I know people talking 12 personnel. We've shown you the ratio. It may increase a little bit, but I truly believe that Matt LaFleur wants to stay in 11 as much as possible. However, if you go to 12 and put Musgrave flexed out wide, now you've got their base defense out there. They got to choose to put a linebacker or a safety trying to cover Musgrave as a split wide receiver. Man, game on, game on. So again, there's just a quick reference. Matt LaFleur was more conservative, almost as conservative as he was his first year with the Packers in 2019. So he got really aggressive while Rodgers was here. Obviously, Rodgers loved going for it on 4th down, and then you've basically seen a decline every year since Rodgers left. In 2023, when Jordan Love took over, you went from going for it on 4th down, what appears to be about 63 times, it looks like, down to 59 times in 2023, for 22 to 23. So you drop roughly 5 or 6 times. Now, extra possessions can play a role in that. We all know that. But then you go last year all the way down to whatever it was, 28 or 29. And some of that could have been Jordan Love being hurt and Matt LaFleur going, he's just he's not, at the top of his game right now because of the injuries he's dealing with. Let's go ahead and punt this thing away. So going to be really, really interesting to see how Matt LaFleur attacks that this coming year. All right, moving along here. Man, one of my favorite players, and I've been very vocal about this when it comes to Edgerrin Cooper. This dude's just an absolute dog. And, Edgerrin Cooper and Evan Williams PFF grades versus where they were drafted. I want you to key in on this, and I can't zoom in any further, so I apologize. I might be able to go full screen for just a second. Here we go. So basically what you got here, and for those of you who are listening on the pod, running from left to right at the bottom is what draft pick number these players were taken at, okay? So low number to the left, going high number to the right, meaning the closer to the bottom left were the higher the draft picks. I know that's very confusing, okay? So the goal here is to be, at the top of this chart, which running vertically on the left side is your PFF defensive grade. So no matter where you were drafted, you want to make sure you're at the top of this chart, okay? However, when you get a player that's further to the right where they were a later draft pick and they've got that high PFF grade, it just shows you those guys that were really, really, really good draft picks. Right now, I don't know how many snaps each of these guys had outside of the Packers players, but like a Jeremiah Trotter Jr., you guys know we were very high on him in the draft. We had him as one of our top 3 or top 4 linebackers. He was taken, it looks like, after the 140 mark, so probably somewhere around between 150 and 160. It jumps from 140 to 175, so he's in that range. And man, he was right there towards the top of this list. He's in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably top 6 players on this list. Okay. Now, when it comes to Edgerrin Cooper was the 3rd highest graded rookie last year, according to PFF. So you had Jared Verse number 1, Cooper DeJean number 2, and Edgerrin Cooper number 3. Now, you guys know Cooper DeJean fell to the 2nd round. And I know there's Packer fans that wish we'd have taken Cooper DeJean over Jordan Morgan. I get it. I understand. Hindsight's 2020. If we had to do the redraft, I bet Goody probably would take him, right? But we still don't know what we got in Jordan Morgan. He may end up being an absolute dog. And we know the biggest need we have right now is offensive line based off how that Philly game went last year. And that's why I can't roast Goody too much for taking Jordan Morgan last year. It's like he could see what was happening. And then, of course, Jordan Morgan's hurt during that playoff game when everything kind of fell apart when you had Elton Jenkins go out with the injury. But nonetheless, Edgerrin Cooper taken there in the 2nd round around pick 40 or so. Was it 44 maybe? He was the 3rd highest graded rookie according to PFF. Next on this list, and I'm going to just kind of roughly give you an estimate of where he sits. It's Evan Williams at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like roughly the 12th or 13th highest graded rookie last year. So when you look at it from that perspective, you got, if let's just say PFF is everything, and you guys know you're rolling your eyes because I dog it just as much as anybody from time to time. But let's say it is, the tell-all be-all or be-all tell-all or however the hell you say that. You got a top 15 prospect in the 2024 NFL draft after pick 100. How cool is that? So you essentially got 2 first-round talents. If you're going strictly off PFF grades alone, you got 2 first-round talents in last year's draft. Now, when you slide on down, Javon Bullard is the next player on this list in terms of rookies, it looks like. I don't think I'm missing anyone else here. I think we got it. And he obviously was a 2nd-round pick. Now, he's underneath that median line there, right? So that would suggest it was a bad draft pick where he was taken, I would imagine. Now, when you try to count the players, it's going to be difficult to do this. I'll see if I can give you guys a roundabout here. It's probably 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 40. Yeah, you're probably down there in the 40s if I had to guess. 40s or 50s, which is probably right around where we took Javon Bullard. So I don't know. I guess it just depends on how you look at that. One thing's for sure, you had a higher grade on Javon Bullard than you did Evan Williams, and Evan Williams graded out higher once he got to the league, right? And that's going to happen. That's why you take multiple swings, which is why I'm excited that we took multiple swings at wide receiver, because chances are you're going to hit on one of those 2, especially, taking one in the 1st round for the first time since 2002, and then the other one in the 3rd round. I mean, when you look at the quality of the players that the Packers have drafted in the 3rd round here lately, 3rd round or, around that mark in terms of wide receiver. I mean, you got Tucker Kraft at tight end, right? You got Christian Watson was taken in the 2nd round, so it's right around that range. Luke Musgrave was taken in the 2nd round. The jury's still out on that pick. You kind of like your chances. Hell, you got Romeo Doubs, what was it, the 4th or 5th round, and he turned out to be a pretty darn good receiver. Jaden Reed was drafted in the 2nd round, so right around that same mark. So they definitely had a second round grade on Savion Williams, and this is the point I wanted to get to. They definitely had a second round grade on Savion Williams because when Brian Gutekunst was asked about Savion Williams, they said, yeah, he was there in the second round. It made sense for us to take him in the second round, but we had other players there as well. So they took Anthony Belton, who they had a second round grade on as well. Reading between the lines, okay, it sounds to me like Goody was saying he had a second round grade on both Anthony Belton and Savion Williams. Well, they'd already taken Matthew Golden, so then the tiebreaker goes to what's the position of need? We need offensive line. They went Anthony Belton second round. And then it just so happens that Savion Williams was still sitting in their third round. And Brian Gutekunst said, yeah, we didn't expect him to be there in the third round when he was there. Like we didn't plan on taking him. But when you look up in the third round, you got a second round grade on Savion. And then all of a sudden he's still sitting there in the third. That's a pretty good sign, right? AFAM says a second round grade Savion is scary bad. I don't know what that means, AFAM. Give me an idea of what you mean there. I'm trying to. This is usually where I ask the guys. I'm stupid. What's he saying here? So let me know what you meant there by that. But if you got a second round grade on Savion, then it means you got a second round talent in the third round there. You got a second round talent in Anthony Belton. And obviously you got a first round talent in Matthew Golden. According to Goody's board, again, we will see. Time will tell. Time will tell. Yeah, that's right. I'm glad somebody else brung this up here. Greg Ross says Krispy Kreme's talk, AFAM's BS walks. AFAM, are you taking that bet or not, man? You disappeared last night. We need to know, okay? We need to know. Greg says AFAM doesn't understand AFAM. Scary, bad scouting department. Wow. That's interesting. So you're saying that Savion is not worthy of a second round pick. Okay, gotcha. Are you taking that bet, AFAM? Let me know, yes or no, man. Let me get it up on the ticker here. I think Emilio put it down for us right here. Zach Tom not getting extended this year. So if the Packers let him hit free agency and they don't re-sign him in free agency, obviously, they just let him walk in free agency, he signs with someone else. A dozen of Krispy Kreme donuts, you in or out on that. AFAM, need to know as soon as possible so we can put it on the ticker. All right. So again, just wanted to point out just how quality a pick Edgerrin Cooper and Evan Williams was. And Evan Williams being a fourth round pick gets you excited about. I mean, has Goody not crushed it in the fourth round? Like, I think that's where they got Zach Tom. I think that's where they got. I'm trying to think of like who all was in the fourth round because we've landed some stud. Now, way back in the day, obviously Bakhtiari, I think, was a fourth round pick. He ended up being a franchise left tackle. So really, really quality picks there. Some would say the Javon Bullard pick is quality as well. You guys know I'm a little more hesitant on it, especially if he's going back to safety, because I felt like he played a lot better in the slot. Not saying he should start over Keyshawn or Nate Hobbs in the slot, just simply saying it felt like he was more comfortable there, playing closer to the line of scrimmage and helping out in the run fits a little bit more rather than playing some post safety and every now and again mixing in Spurs safety, that type of thing. So I agree. Deadfish says not signing Zach Tom would be idiotic. I mean, what he's done is pretty remarkable. With the torn pec last year, having his highest graded year, his best performing year, so to speak. And I know he struggled against Philly. Hell, who doesn't, right? But yeah, I'm with you on that, Deadfish. Got to get him back. AFM went quiet again, didn't he? I don't know. I guess we'll take this down. Maybe he's not interested in the old bet there. So let's see here. Andy Monday, good to see you, buddy. Says Dobbs and Tom in the fourth round in the same draft. And here's the thing about Dobbs. Whether you think he should get wide receiver one money or not, or whether you think he's not even worth $10 million plus, one thing's for sure, that was a damn good pick, right? Because that draft pick, as a matter of fact, he met the production. I'm trying to think of what they call it. They have a production grade or something like that, where if rookies play a certain amount of snaps, they qualify for more money than their rookie contract originally, is worded with. So basically, that's why he's making $3 million this year, because he qualified for more money. So AFAM says he can't agree to those terms. There you go. Completely understand, AFAM. That's why we thought you were talking out your wazoo that night when you said it. So let's see here. H.E. Soder, the longer they do nothing with Tom, I get the feeling that they might let him test the market. Yeah, That's a possibility, right, Soder? Because the question is, what's the rest of the league? How do they feel about it? I personally think they're going to get a deal done because I feel like if they hadn't had any negotiation whatsoever, I believe Zach Tom might have withheld services a little bit. But I kind of feel like they're both acting in good faith. I don't know if that makes sense. And this is just me strictly speculating. You could be wrong, so or you could be completely right. So they might be the plan. Let's go let them test the market, right? And they did draft Anthony Belton, who might be in in the future just starting at right guard or kicking him out to tackle like he played in college. But with that being said, I personally think that they're having negotiations in the background and that Tom knows, okay, they're going to lock me up. It's just a matter of us meeting in the middle and finding the right number type thing. If we break training camp, Solder, if we break training camp and go into preseason week 1, then you're spot on, dude. They're probably going to let him test the market. So I'm excited to see if that contract gets done in camp. I'm sold on him. I don't know how you guys feel on Zach Tom. I'm definitely sold on him. I think the majority would agree with that too. But Andy Monday says Jenkins' the situation comes first, then Tom. Often the extension comes late in the preseason. It seems like it's like the last week of camp is when it usually gets. Now some of the other guys where they're going into the last year of their contract and like I remember Elton Jenkins's. He missed some time, and there was speculation it might have been the contract. But I think you're right. Andy. I want to say it was definitely after preseason week 2. I'm almost positive. So, yeah. All right. Next topic here. Age distribution within the 2025 NFL draft picks. All right. So, you guys know we have this conversation every year, and you'll say, man, really like this prospect, and both the threshold gatekeepers and the Goody DiCaprio-esque fans come out. Oh, he's too old. There's no way they would draft him. He's too old. His arms are too short. This and that and the other thing. I think it's important to take those things into consideration when you're looking at possibilities for a draft pick. But at the end of the day, man, like you want the better football player. And we said last year, you got to get a little bit older this year. You got to get a little more seasoned. And when people think of an older rookie, they just assume, okay, they're going to be as raw as the 21-year-old prospect. And that's just simply not the case. Like, look at Bo Nix. Look at what Bo Nix did last year. And what some fans would look at as a negative, Sean Payton seen it as a positive. That dude's played a ton of football in college. It's why Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst fell in love with Sean Clifford, because he had played so much football throughout his college career, right? So with that being said, every year we have this conversation about age, right? Look where the Packers are on this list. So once again, it's a chart running from left to right at the bottom. It's starting at 21 years old. Then it goes up to 24, okay? And you argue the next line is, 24 and a half, I guess you could say. So you got the age running across the bottom and the teams running vertically up, from the bottom to the top along the left side. And what this is essentially showing you is in terms of the draft choices that these teams made, the teams at the top of this list drafted the older players. Okay, so the Denver Broncos draft picks had an average age of what appears to be like 23 and a third years old. Okay, and then you got the Chargers right behind them, a little closer to 23. The Lions a little closer than them to 23. The Raiders a little closer than them to 23. Washington a little closer to them to 23. And then us sitting right at 23, maybe just a hair under 23 years old. So what's that tell you? The Packers were the 6th highest team on this chart in terms of drafting older players. So you guys remind me of that next year when we go into our draft coverage, when draft season kind of kicks off and go, hey, yeah, you want the younger player. We made the Goody DiCaprio jokes all year long. And I think it was funny. Other radio stations started picking up on that joke too. I wonder where they got that from, right? But anyway, remember that next year, because it seems like there was a little bit of a shift, Now, here's the other thing that comes into play, and I know people are thinking this in the chat as well. Probably I haven't seen it in the chat yet, but with NIL and the ever-changing landscape that is college football today, the average age is going to increase now. Okay, it's going to increase in terms of the draft, because you got players that are going to stay to play college football as opposed to going to the league. Let me explain to you why. You guys remember our boy Ewers? What's his name? Why can't I think of his name? Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, Texas quarterback, right? Listen to the business decision he made when it comes to NIL. Okay, he was offered. We got this confirmation, and I know there was rumors that Notre Dame was in the hunt as well. Notre Dame was interested in him, but there were several schools that were interested in acquiring the NIL deal and the services of Quinn Ewers for the upcoming college football season. They said he got offered, and these are rumors, but the rumors typically tend to be true. Quinn Ewers got offered $7 million. Some were reporting 6, others reporting 7.5. Let's just call it $7 million. $7 million to go back and play college football this year. He turned it down to enter the draft, and he ended up getting drafted in the 6th or the 7th round. That cost him $6 million. Let's play it on the conservative side. $5 million, because he decided to go to the league as opposed to stay in college. And that's why you're going to see that average age continue to increase. Now, put that to the side. Okay, let's set that over here for a second. That has nothing to do with the trend that Green Bay kind of reset this year, drafting older, because obviously whether the players are getting older coming into the draft or not, you're still comparing apples to apples with the rest of the league, and they were in the top 6 in the league. You understand what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Soder, you're so mean, man. He said $7 million a year to underthrow the deep ball. It was bad, wasn't it, man? It was so bad last year. He had injuries as well, though. Don't get me wrong. But that's the other thing, there's more to playing quarterback, especially at the college level, than just arm strength, right? And he does understand offense, and obviously Texas had a great program last year. They have the last couple of years. The other thing too could have been maybe he didn't want to have to go to another school, and he seen the writing on the wall that Arch Manning was going to take over at Texas. That could have been the case as well, right? We don't know the behind the scenes, but nonetheless, we do know for a fact that he turned down at least $6, maybe $7 million to enter the NFL draft, which is wild. Which tells me that his agent, I'd be at least exploring other options for an agent, because that was a major miscalculation of the market for Quinn Ewers going into the draft. So really, really wild there. So again, just wanted to point out the Packers did they pressed into drafting older players more than they have in the past here, according to this chart. Or maybe the rest of the league got extremely aggressive going younger. I don't have the number in which they drafted the previous year. But nonetheless, they were top 6 in terms of older players. I like it because, again, I want more experience. I want guys that have played more football on this roster as opposed to less. So, all right, next chart we're going to look at here, team offensive rushing efficiency. Okay, so we've talked about yards per carry, right? We've talked about all these different analytics, metrics, and everything, and we've talked about Josh Jacobs over and over and over. We got a chalk talk geared up for him here real soon. I'm going to save it for when the guys are on so they can be a part of it too. I know they really enjoy those chalk talks. We basically got some of his top explosive plays from last year we're going to break down. So it's going to be a lot of fun to dive into that. But here is EPA per rush attempt. And this is for the teams. This isn't just Josh Jacobs, although we know Josh Jacobs really carried the workload last year. Okay. So Josh Jacobs last year, along with the Green Bay Packers running game, they finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th in the league in EPA per rush attempt. Okay. And that EPA looks like it's somewhere just below the even 0 mark. Okay. So the best team in the league, no surprise, is the Baltimore Ravens, then the Philadelphia Eagles, Buffalo Bills. Obviously the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen running the football is going to really, really kind of bend that in that direction. I'm sure they had a good running game with their back as well, but Josh Allen working a lot in the running game, especially with the the rushing touchdowns. The Detroit Lions are up there. Then you got Washington. It drops off a little bit. You got Washington, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, Arizona, and then your Green Bay Packers. So again, here's another metric proving the Packers were a top 10 rushing offense in the league last year. Soder points out here too, a lot of mobile quarterbacks in that top 10. Amen. And that plays a big role. So the fact that Jordan Love could not scramble last year, with the injuries, that's that played a big role. Their EPA per rush attempt probably would have been a little higher if Jordan would have, been healthy enough to run the football a little bit more like we've seen in 2023. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, if you look at a mobile quarterback, rushing quarterbacks on this list, Baltimore, yes. Philly, yes. Buffalo, yes. Detroit, no. Washington, yes, with Jaden Daniels. Baker Mayfield, I'm going to say no, although he does have a little bit of scrambling ability. Atlanta, I'm trying to think of who they started the season with. Did they start with Kirk Cousins and then went to Penix, I believe? So Atlanta's definitely a running back heavy run game. And then, of course, Kyler Murray, I imagine he scrambled at least somewhat because obviously that's one of the aspects of his game there as well, which it is actually surprising to me a few years ago. I think it was in 2022 when he just refused to run with the football. So, yeah. Ed Madden in the chat. Love will run with healthy legs. His first year, he took off a lot more than I thought he would. Yeah, and he'd lower that head. He'd dive toward the end zone. He was a lot of fun to watch, man. That's where you can kind of dip into that RPR game a little bit. And you can tell Matt LaFleur just kind of ripped that page out of the playbook last year because he didn't want to put him in harm's way. So, so there you go. EPA per rush attempt. The Packers are top 10, finishing not on this list right here. Next, roster age. This is a big talking point, right? Last year, you guys know I was really vocal last year and said, man, I have a hard time picking the Packers to win the Super Bowl when they're the youngest team in the league. It's just something that happens very, very rarely, if not ever, This came in from Bill Barnwell, at Bill Barnwell over on X. Final snap weighted age data for the 2024 regular season. The 5 oldest teams in the league were the Minnesota Vikings, the Miami Dolphins, the Atlanta Falcons, the Cleveland Browns, and the San Francisco 49ers. The 5 youngest teams were the Green Bay Packers, the New York Giants, the Vegas Raiders, Arizona Cardinals, and the LA Chargers. So your Packers were the youngest team in the league last year. If you go down the chart, they were ranked 32nd, obviously. Their team average was 25.8 years of age. All right. And I was trying to see here, ranked draft age. And that shows the draft. Is that the draft age, DA? Oh, offense. Okay, so they broke it down by offense and defense. Offense, 25.6 was their number. That was dead last. Defensively, they were 25.9. That was 30th. And then obviously that lands them in the 32 overall team ranking spot in terms of age at 25.8 years of age. So, again, this year you got a little bit older. You signed Mecole Hardman. We'll see if he makes the roster. And again, this was the final snap age, and that's why it's important to take everything into consideration here. Because if you just go off of breaking camp, that might not even be the roster you finish the season with, right? So Aaron Banks, 27 years old, I believe. Nate Hobbs, I think he's 26 or turns 27. He might already be 27. So both of those guys are going to raise that age a little bit. Mecole Hardman, if he makes a roster, that'll raise the age a little bit, right? So you've got all those things that kind of come into factor. That's going to raise the age just a touch. Now, how much? That's going to be the question, right? But again, if we look at the success last year, Minnesota won, 14 games? Was it 13 or 14 games? They had the oldest roster in the league. The Miami Dolphins, I can't remember if they made the playoffs or not, but they had the second oldest. I wouldn't consider them an upper echelon team at the moment. They could be if they're healthy, right? Atlanta Falcons, third. I think they're a team that's on the rise. I think their general manager's done a pretty good job, even though he's gotten roasted for some of the moves he's made. Penix, if Penix ends up being the real deal and he showed a little bit of promise at the end of last year, then that's all that matters for that team, right? Cleveland is the next oldest bad team. San Francisco had a horrible year. They're 27.8 years of age. New Orleans, bad year. Washington had a good year. So essentially in the top 7, you got two playoff teams. You guys let me know in the chat if Miami, Atlanta made the playoffs or not. So we've gotten 2 so far that I know of. The New York Jets are number 8. Carolina Panthers, number 9. Buffalo Bills number 10. So in the top 10 oldest rosters in the league, I'm showing 3 playoff teams. Ed Madden confirms. Thank you so much for that, buddy. Appreciate you. The Dolphins did not make the playoffs, and Bates says Atlanta didn't make it either. So of the top 10 oldest rosters in the league, 3 of those 10 teams made the playoffs. Next, you got Pittsburgh. They made the playoffs. Cincinnati did not. Seattle made the playoffs, right? So there's 2. Detroit made the playoffs. There's 3. Baltimore, 4. Dallas did not make it. LA did. That's 5. Kansas City, 6. And then that's the top 20. So in the top 20, in terms of the oldest rosters in the league, I believe that puts us at a total of 9. So of the 20 oldest rosters in the league, 9 of them made the playoffs. Okay. So that's what does that mean? I don't know. You tell me, what's it mean to you? You know, again, when you look at the youngest teams in the league, Green Bay made the playoffs. We had the youngest team in the league. The Giants didn't make the playoffs. The Raiders didn't make the playoffs. I don't think Arizona made the playoffs. The Chargers did make the playoffs, right? Philly won the whole damn thing. Tampa made the playoffs, right? So that's 4. New England missed the playoffs. Did Houston make the playoffs, guys? I think they did. I think Houston made the playoffs. Can't remember if they did or not. I know they had a lot of injuries last year, though. But if they made the playoffs and there's 5 in, okay, Arizona didn't, Houston did. There you go. Okay, so that's 5, right? So we got 5 of the 10 youngest teams in the league made the playoffs. So that's actually more than the oldest, right? It kind of feels like the sweet spot is somewhere between 10 and 23 in terms of age, right? So just want to point that out. We talk about that type of stuff from time to time, and I just want to kind of do a quick little deep dive. So, hey, it's what Goody talks about, right? It's a young man's game. It's a young man's sport. I just don't like being the youngest, you know. And when you have a lot of mental errors, you have a lot of penalties, you have a lot of drops, things like that. Let's get some guys in here that have a little more, a little more experience, if that makes sense. So, probably as always, the truth is somewhere right in the middle, right? Right. You know, I'm thinking we don't need the youngest team in the league. Others are thinking we need the oldest team in the league. We need the most veteran leadership as possible. And the true sweet spot is probably somewhere right in the middle there. But let's give away an autographed Kingsley Enagbare card. That sound good, guys? Help me out in the chat. I need a number here. We're going to shuffle this thing and give away an autographed Kingsley Enagbare rookie card. All right. Give me a number between 1 and 10, guys. Number between 1 and 10. And I'm going to say the third person to do it's going to be the number, okay? That way they can't say it's rigged. 55. Jeez, Pete, Chris, what, you trying to keep me here all night? Unbelievable. The third one was what? 6 by Deadfish, right? And then Coach Lynn says 6 as well. All right, cool. And Holmes says it's rigged. There you go. All right, so we're going to shuffle this thing 6 times so you can see it here. These are everybody that's in the Patreon group. If you want to join our Patreon community, just go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. Member of the $3 tier gets you entered into these giveaways. It also gets you access to other content. It's the best way to support what we do here at Packers Total Access. Let's shuffle this thing 6 times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now let's zoom it in and let's give away an autographed Kingsley Enagbare card. As always, what we're going to do here, gang, we're going to shuffle this thing, or we're going to spin it 3 times. The first place winner is the true winner. If they don't come forward and get the prize, then it'll go to the second place. If they don't come forward, it'll go to the third place. If they don't come forward, we'll just put the prize right back in the pot and spin it again another time. So here we go. The winner of the Kingsley Enagbare autographed rookie card is Paul Grant. Congratulations to Paul Grant, the winner of the Kingsley Enagbare card. Let me write this down so I don't forget. Usually I got the guys talking and cutting up as I do it. All right, now let's spin it again. The second place winner, if Paul Grant is in the clink and doesn't come forward for the Kingsley Enagbare card, it's going to go to Mountain Man Pack. That's your second place winner. All right. And now the third place, in case both of those guys don't come forward, or they just say, hey, give it to somebody else. That's happened before too, which is really cool, man. People just want to support the channel, but appreciate it either way. Rich Beck is the third place winner. So again, the winner of the Kingsley and Igbare autograph rookie card is Paul Grant. Paul, reach out to me on Patreon. Shoot me a DM. We'll get your information, get that mailed out to you. If we don't hear from him, Mountain Man Pack is the second place winner. If we don't hear from Mountain Man Pack, it will be Rich Beck. Mountain Man Pack's always in here. Paul Grant was in here for a lot for a while. I haven't seen him in a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong, man. Everybody's changing their names and everything in the chat. I can never keep up with who's who. So there you go. Appreciate everybody. Listen, if you didn't win, just want you to know how much we appreciate you being in our Patreon community. It's the best way to support what we do. And it's just awesome to have that. I like that, having that direct line to you guys as well. Like, you guys can shoot me a DM. We can, ask questions in the community chat, which we're going to hit the questions in the Patreon group tomorrow. So get your questions in. We're going to do that on tomorrow's show. So it's just another way to get your voice heard here on Packers Total Access. All right, that's it, guys. Listen, everybody in the chat, thank y'all so much for hanging out on this Sunday evening. It was awesome talking ball with you guys. We'll be back tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central Time for PTA Live. And, that's the other thing, too, here. Let's go ahead and mention on our way out. Mac and Cheese Podcast says, my autism connection supports you guys. Appreciate you, Mary, there in the chat. We're also doing an awesome, really, really cool giveaway. So this is an autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. If you go to my Twitter account, @Packers_access, you're going to see a link there that says givebutter.com/KRPSJ5. That will send you directly to the My Autism Connection page, Building Hope, Community, and Independence for Autistic Adults. It's actually going to send you directly to our giveaway page. For every $5 that you donate, you're going to be entered into the contest one time to potentially win that autographed Dorsey Levens jersey that's right there. So just a way for us to kind of raise money for a good cause and our great friends over at My Autism Connection, and give Packer fans a chance to win a cool piece of memorabilia. Dorsey Levens, one of those dudes, one of my favorite Packers of all time, Super Bowl champion there. So anyway, that's it, guys. We'll see y'all tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go back.
Here we go.
We're out.
Bye, guys.